Emma Corrin, you star in A Murder at the End of the World as tech-savvy amateur detective Darby Hart, who is invited to a retreat where she ends up having to solve a murder. Well, first off, what did you think of the character of Darby when you read the scripts?
I thought that I'd never really read anything quite like those scripts, and I'd never really seen anyone quite like Darby on the screen, especially in a murder mystery, like at the helm of a murder mystery, a detective who is young, female, an amateur sleuth, very Gen Z, and not at all hardened or, yeah, sort of not the typical detective. And I thought that was really original. And I really loved how between the flashbacks, the interaction between the past and the present, and how this character is sort of forced to confront her past in order to solve the mystery in the present. And I thought that was a really beautiful way of developing a character. Yeah.
And playing Darby in two different time periods, what were some of the subtle differences you wanted to kind of convey between who she was in the past and who that made her in the present?
I think in the past, I wanted to really give her this sort of naivety. Although she's obviously like had such a strange upbringing in morgues and dealing with dead bodies, surrounded by so much death and quite a lot of isolation, she has a sort of joyful spirit, a very strong, unbreakable spirit, and at that time isn't quite as jaded as she is in the past. I wanted to make that quite a clear change, that with Bill falling in love, you can see that excitement and that hope and the faith that she still has in people and in humanity that she sort of loses, or you see that she's lost when you meet her again in the present. But also I think it's so interesting, and it was so fun to play that Britain's I'll make it so that she has to get those parts of her back. She has to re-embrace her faith in humanity, and she has to re-embrace her vulnerability in order to solve this mystery in the present and sort of confront all of those things in the person she used to be and who she's lost. And so that sort of interaction between past and present was really fun.
Was detective fiction something that interested you before this series came about, or was this just a unique project that really excited you?
It was incredibly unique, and I think it excited me because it wasn't like anything I'd seen in the masses of detective fiction that's out there, but I love detective fiction. I just watched The Jinx last night and I couldn't sleep. I was screaming. It was unbelievable. So good. I mean, obviously that's documentary, but I think, yeah, true crime is endlessly fascinating. And I'm also interested in why we're so fascinated by it. It's so bizarre, our appetite to see how twisted people can be and the satisfaction that we get in those people like being brought to justice. It's really interesting. Yeah, but I've always found it really interesting.
And did you take any inspiration from any other like fictional detectives playing Darby? Did you find yourself like looking to other references?
Strangely, it was sort of the opposite. In the Because Britain's Are had created quite an original character, a lot of their advice was sort of like, these are the things we want you not to be. And I'm not going to reference the series that they told me to see, which are all amazing, and I've loved all of them. But they were sort of like, we want to make something that's different in this aspect or different in that aspect. Mainly, it was that in most of these detective series, the women that are the victims, whose bodies are being, whose murders are being solved, Darby is that age and that exact person. So it was sort of putting the victim at the helm of the story, which is very, yeah, I don't know if it's been done before. So it was sort of there wasn't really any reference point. There was a really great reference point of sort of what not to do. And what Britain's Isle had such a rich scope of references though. And they, even in terms of like art, they were, yeah, they told me to like look at all these artists to get a sense of like the past and the present, and they're such great world builders that weirdly you don't need. I never felt like I needed material really other than what they provided in terms of the script.
And Darby has a really distinct personal style, and it's a sort of different look in the past and present. Did that hair and makeup and costume help you find the character in both time periods?
Yeah, massively. I thought I loved I mean, I guess I kind of have it now because my brown hair's back, but the little sort of bangs in the ponytail was so fun. And I haven't had that hair for so long because at that point I'd been dyeing it for a while. And um, yeah, I remember my mum seeing a picture of me with that wig on and getting really emotional because she was like, "Oh my God, it's like when you were younger." Um, but it was, and that sort of immediately transported me into a different era of Darby's life. And also the clothes that she was wearing there, like little slips, and there was you could see the sort of little bits of androgyny, but it had a sort of abandon and a sort of freedom to the way that she dressed, which I think she loses in the present. She wears things that are comfortable and almost like hiding her and shrouding her, and that's Megan Gray, the costume designer, is so clever in the way that she did that. Because yeah, you could just look at the two images side by side, and it would tell you so much about the headspace that character's in. And the pink hair was fun, although a nightmare to keep up. Oh my God, yeah, but fun.
In addition to being a mystery, the series is also exploring a lot of themes about technology, the ramifications of technology. It's sort of futuristic in a way. Yeah, what did you think about that aspect of the series?
I feel like it did it so well in a way that only Brit and Zal could, which is sort of adding a very sci-fi aspect to it. At least I think when they were writing, it felt like sci-fi, and then when we were shooting, and since it's come out, obviously it's real life now, and that's terrifying. I mean, even to have our release date and our press tour for this derailed by the strike, which was about the battle between our humanity and artificial intelligence and the right to our likeness and artificial intelligence. I mean, that's terrifying because it's what our series was dealing with, that moral responsibility we have in the face of all that AI could offer us. So it's massively, it has its finger on the pulse. And I think the real joy in doing the series was to know that it was dealing with these themes that are quite sinister and really important, but that it has this really strong beating heart at the center of it, which is also a love story. And it's tender and it's earnest. And I think those two things play off each other really well, the AI-ness and the love story, and they balance each other out quite well.
You've mentioned Britt and Zal, Britt Marling and Zal Batmanglich, who created the show, and they're also directors. And in Britt Marling's case, is also your co-star. What was it like working with them and with Britt Marling in particular, since you're working with her in so many different capacities at a time?
They're wonderful. I've honestly never met anyone with minds quite like theirs. They're sort of the people you could talk to for hours on end. And also every time I'm with Brie, I feel like I need a notebook to be writing down what she's saying because it's so beautiful. I don't know what it must be like to have a mind like hers. It's extraordinary. But it was such an honor to sort of get to work with her every day, and Zal as well. And they held the set so well. I mean, it was a really demanding shoot for me, certainly, but also they were there every day as well, and the whole crew. And it takes a lot to sort of carry our whole team of people through that. It was a long shoot, and the hours were long. And certainly in Iceland and Utah, the conditions were really extreme. I mean, Britt got hypothermia quite early on in the shoot, and it's a real lesson in galvanizing a team and feeling like you're carrying each other through it. And yeah, I have so much respect for Britt doing both because that's doing both the directing and acting. It's a tall order, but she did it beautifully.
You mentioned shooting in Iceland and Utah. Those are very different extremes. To talk a little bit more about like what that was like physically, just to kind of as an actor, how challenging was that?
I mean, incredibly challenging. We started off in Iceland. We were there for about a month, and it was freezing. I've never been in temperatures that cold. And obviously, you're also at the mercy of whatever your costume is. And there were some scenes where the scene where Darby, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's going to listen to this and then watch the show, but she runs outside something happened, she hears something at the hotel, and she runs outside in the cold to try and get a glimpse of whatever it is through a window. And I had to run out in sneakers and a hoodie in the middle of this blizzard at like 1 a.m. at night in like such sub-zero temperatures. It was crazy. Yeah, but it was sort of also exhilarating and really useful because we spent a month in Iceland shooting completely exteriors and then moved to do all the interiors in New Jersey. And by that point, when we moved inside the hotel, you had all the cold and everything in your bones. So you really knew what that environment was like, even if you weren't there anymore. And I don't think I could have, that was so helpful. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't been there and experienced that. And it's also that thing where it's kind of crazy because there's no acting required when you're like up a mountain and like so cold. You don't have to act. You're just freezing. Yeah.
And the Icelandic retreat, the interiors, it's such an evocative setting, the architecture and the technology intermingled. What was it like working in that, in that environment and getting the mood of that place?
It was amazing. I mean, they built the set inside the stage and the hotel. So, I mean, they built the hotel inside the stage and it was one complete hotel. Like you could walk upstairs. Everything was exactly as it should have been, as if you were actually inside that place. It was sort of trippy. Like so much so that if I wasn't needed for a bit, I'd go and nap in Darby's room. That was like Darby's room in the bed. It was so funny. But it was kind of mad because we were all there for, the cast was incredible, and it was a very much like an ensemble cast. And of course, at the retreat, they were all stuck in this place together. And it really felt like for those 5 months in Jersey, we were all stuck in this place together because we were all, every day in there, same set, dark. It was amazing. It was I think it sort of made it feel like we were really on a retreat together. Yeah.
And you said that in your discussions with Zal and Britt, you talked a lot about stories and storytelling. Is that something you're interested in, like writing? Is that a path that you would be interested in going down?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've always written, but nothing ever really seriously. Just I think that's always how I don't know, fueled my interest in acting when I was little. I would just like write. I had a very feverish imagination. I really enjoyed writing. And yeah, I don't know, I would definitely do that again. I guess it's just time. And at the moment I don't have very much of that. But yeah, we bonded over that. We bonded in our first meeting over childhood, particularly. Because I think I came at Darby very much of with a curiosity of, because I suppose the story that the story hinges so much upon what Darby has been through in the past. And so I was really curious if you took her back further, even to when she was very young, what formed her into the person she is. Because I think she's such an interesting person. And then we just started swapping stories about childhoods and how we all came to do what we do and what's informed that, which is where the subject of storytelling came from. Yeah.
You've already earned a Spirit Award nomination for your performance in this series. And of course, you had an amazing awards run for The Crown a couple of years ago. What is all that recognition coming in these past few years? What has that meant to you?
It means a huge amount. Yeah, I mean, it's a real honor to be recognized for the work you do and to be able to sort of also recognize all the other people that worked on these projects alongside you and to celebrate it. I mean, yeah, it means a hell of a lot, especially with something like this, I suppose, that took such a lot. Like it was hard, it was challenging, we all felt it. And I think especially in those cases where people have poured so much time and effort into something, and I guess also because the environments we were shooting in felt so extreme, it really felt like a battle at times. And I suppose especially in those cases, to have that recognition I think especially in this case, maybe some other somehow differently to others, it would feel like a celebration of the series itself and the people who worked in it as an entire group, because it felt like such a group effort every single day. Yeah.
And you mentioned the strike kind of interfering with, being able to really discuss the show when it was rolling out. Is it nice to be able to talk about the show since that ended, to be able to kind of celebrate it?
Yeah, it really is. It's so funny doing this, always doing coming back to visit a show that you filmed such a long time ago. And I mean, I think I was doing this in 2022. Is that right? 2022? Yeah, 2022. And it feels like a different lifetime almost, and it's really nostalgic. And it's interesting as more time passes and you have different experiences, you work on different projects, you come up against different things, and your perspective on an experience really changes. I think if you'd have asked me some of these questions coming straight out of it, you're almost too close to the thing to be able to reflect on it properly. And I think it's really nice to come back to it. I had a joint interview with Britt earlier today, and it's just so nice to like see her and to like swap stories. It feels like catching up with an old friend about like a really unique experience you both shared. And yeah, there's something really beautiful about it. So I do love it. Yeah.
Well, I want to congratulate you for your work in the series, and as more people get to see it, I really hope anyone who missed it when it was coming out really tunes in to it on Hulu. And thank you so much for talking with me about it today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.